3rd of February 1938, my school chum and I decided to join the army. We had no idea what regiment we were going to join. We was relying on the recruiting sergeant when we got down to St Giles's. Of course, he made up our minds for us. He was showing us postcards of the beautiful, well-kept gardens at Caterham, and we were a short distance from Croydon, and he was painting it all very nice. And we were carried away and cajoled us into it, and we signed on the dotted line. We lost then our commissar mate. He was killed. The Germans came through the French so many kilometres to our right, and we had to get back, otherwise we'd be surrounded. And that's where this, we was told that the spies and that were walking, dressed as nuns and priests and all that business. Of course, you'd recognise the nuns because, they don't usually have moustaches. Anyway, joking aside, to cut a long story short, we was bombarded all the way back to our position where we had to hold out. This on the outskirts of Dunkirk. And they marched us to the speech, formed us up and marched us to attention down to the water's edge. Halt, turn to the front, ordered arms, stand at ease, stand easy. Now, it's every man, then he was told it'd be every man for himself. But before doing so, you'll put out of action all these vehicles that are on the beach, left there by other regiments, So we had to go around and put them out of action. And on the back of one, there was jars of army rum. So I emptied my water bottle, which is a crime in itself. What? Anyway, filled it up with rum, smashed all the others up. We couldn't have them toasting their victory anyway. Then an officer was shouting out, "Oh, Grenadiers! Grenadiers!" He was screaming out, Of course, Joe Soap. I was only 19. I was one of the gang that got round him. "You can see what the situation is," he said. "We're not going to get away today," because it got light then, you see, and you could see the massive squaddies roll along the beach, thousands. "You can see the situation, we're not going to get away today. I suggest we go back and hold out for a few more days." Of course, there's about 30 of us, volunteers. And off we went back through the dunes, very deep dunes. There were. And we come across an upturned boat. "Would you rather try and get this to float?" He said, "Get us afloat or carry on?" Well, naturally, So anyway, we thought it was beyond our capabilities, but the alternative made us get cracking in it. And I got on the end of a long rope and we got down into the water, pushed it through there, and I got up to my neck in water, pulling it. Well, of course, when I pushed back, the boat had been rushed by the other chaps, are on the beach. Nothing to do with the boat, but I couldn't get on. So anyway, the gang of us went to searching again, and we found another one, same capability, same capacity, I should say. And did the same thing again. And Joe Soap, stupid me, rope again, up to a neck in water. But this time I was determined we weren't sinking a boat. I got on, and there was a little squirt on the stern. He'd got a revolver out. He was a commissar major. He got a little crane on his sleeve from some other line regiment. He's only about 4 foot high, and he was pointing the revolver at me to get off. Anyway, the rest in the boat, then we were afloat. The rest of the chaps in the boat, they calmed Captain Bligh down, and we sailed off with our tin huts and towards a minesweeper that was out in the sea. We got there, got a rope ladder and climbed up this rope ladder, and the matelot said, "Welcome aboard, little Rothery, the last of the minesweeper flotilla." So got there, and we had to go down a steel ladder into the hold where they were supposed to have kept the mines. And I got down there. They had to take the cover off, and you got down this sort of a manhole, straight down to the mine. And a chap rushed over. It was a chap of one of the regiment who was doing my lot. Snuff Price, we called him, because every time you met him, he used to give a pinch of snuff. Have a snitch of puff, he'd say, you see. And anyway, he rushed over and said, "Have you got a drink?" I said, "Give him my water bottle, you know." Nearly choked. We always had a good laugh about that afterwards, you know. But anyway, we were dive bombed by the Stukers. "Look out," they were saying. Somebody from the manhole, "Stand against the side of the ship. Here they come," and and it's rocking the ship. The bombs coming down, and this went on for about an hour or so. And one of them, it shook the boat. I thought, "What?" You didn't realise. You'd never realise these things until we eventually got to Sheerness. They come up, and then you realise you've got to queue. We had to queue up to go up the steel ladder. What would have happened if anything serious had happened? We'd never got out. Yeah. You had to have somebody to open the trap door at the top. You come out, and the bridge of the boat was hanging over the side. It's a near miss we had there. Of course, you remember all the chaps. There's so many you lose. It's surprising. You don't get many people, frontline squaddies, related, because they're 6 foot down. There's not many return. And I mean those who are actually in contact with the enemy, an infantryman. It's not a very enjoyable life at all. Not really. I wouldn't recommend it. Not to my children. I always say to them, "Don't join in infantry if you're going to join the army at all."